Let's see.
Excuse me?
Linda Fiorentino was Hollywood's most dangerous woman in the 1990s. She starred in Men in Black and made studios millions. But at 67, she lives like a ghost. She writes handwritten letters and grows tomatoes in a remote cabin. Locals call her ghostly polite. She turned down $200,000 from Netflix just to stay hidden. But why did the woman who once seduced audiences completely vanish? The truth involves FBI secrets, a billion-dollar scandal, and Hollywood's darkest power players. Her disappearance wasn't by choice. Linda Fiorentino was born on March 9, 1958, in Philadelphia. She was the third child in a family of 8 kids. Her family was deeply Catholic and Italian-American, and life at home was always loud, crowded, and full of movement. One of her sisters, Donya, would later become a model and marry both David Fincher and Gary Oldman. In that kind of household, Linda had to fight to be heard. That need to stand out shaped her into someone bold and fiercely independent. Even when she was still just a kid, people thought she was a smart student. But she surprised everyone by constantly arguing with the nuns at school, especially about the Bible. They found it entertaining, but for Linda, it was serious. She questioned everything. She was raised in the rough neighborhoods of South Philadelphia, surrounded by noise and working-class grit. As the middle child, she learned to be tough fast. She played basketball with her brothers, held her own, and grew into a woman who would later shock Hollywood with her fierce screen presence. But deep down, she was still that shy girl her mother remembered, hiding behind a bold exterior that didn't always match what she was feeling inside. Her father, Salvatore Fiorentino, worked as a steel contractor in Philadelphia, welding every day to support the family. Her mother, also named Clorinda, stayed home to raise all 8 children. They lived on a tight budget. Salvatore passed away on June 10, 2018, at the age of 93. That world of blue-collar labor and long days shaped Linda in ways that never left her. You could feel it in the way she spoke in her movies, especially in 1994's The Last Seduction, where her deep voice and sharp looks gave her an edge. Growing up wasn't easy. Their struggles taught her how to be bold, but also made her rebel. Her mother said she was very bold, but really very shy. A strange mix that seemed to define Linda's entire life. Their home was always full. The pressure of that many people packed into one space pushed her to become more independent. She wasn't just tough, she was athletic, outplaying her brothers in baseball and basketball. Later in her career, she made it clear she didn't want the typical soft roles. She didn't want to be the next Meg Ryan. She wanted characters with grit. That came from watching her father work and from living in a house where toughness was survival. Italian culture ran deep in her life. Big Sunday dinners with handmade pasta were common. There were long simmered sauces and noisy gatherings that lasted for hours. On January 6th, her family celebrated Epiphany, and the legend of the Befana, bringing gifts or coal, was taken seriously. These family rituals helped shape her passionate nature. She later compared it to the pizzica dances in southern Italy, where wild rhythm was used to heal the body and mind. But at the same time, she was always pushing back. While she was expected to follow strict Catholic traditions, she found herself drawn to something else. At Rosemont College, she joined a strange mix of theater students, many from rich Puerto Rican and Cuban families. It was there that she gave up on her plan to go to law school. She decided to become an actress instead. Growing up with 8 siblings meant holiday dinners were wild, noisy, and unforgettable. That gave her discipline, but it also fed her desire to stand out. She once said her intense looks kept her from being cast in romantic comedies, but she leaned into it. Her passion, her dramatic flair, and her love of wine-soaked dinners and opera gave her that fire on screen, the same kind you'd see in a Pavarotti performance. Her family moved from Philadelphia to Turnersville, New Jersey, where she went to Washington Township High School from 1972 to 1976. It was there that she continued to surprise people. She still argued with nuns, still played the smart student, but there was more to her. She was a star athlete in both basketball and baseball, earning varsity letters. She was also a cheerleader, and she wasn't afraid to show strength through movement. In 1985's Vision Quest, she played a role so physically confident that she beat out stars like Demi Moore to land it. The years she spent in high school changed her. Moving from the streets of Philadelphia to the quieter life in suburban Jersey helped her become someone who could switch between different worlds. At home, she was one of 8 kids with a welder dad and a homemaker mom. At school, she became someone people noticed. After graduating in 1976, at the age of 18, Linda went on to study political science at Rosemont College and finished her degree in 1980. She also studied photography there, working in darkrooms and learning how to capture moments with precision. That skill never left her. Since 1987, she's been active as a photographer. She was on track for law school, but one professor changed her course completely. He told her she should be on stage. She took the leap. While performing in college plays with her new theater friends, something clicked. She didn't just like acting, she needed it. That period in college was full of experiments, mixing serious academic work with a creative outlet that made her feel alive. Her love of argument, the same boldness that clashed with the nuns, was the same fire that gave her roles in dark, moody films like The Last Seduction their edge. To make ends meet during college, Linda worked part-time jobs as a waitress in Philadelphia. These weren't just jobs, they were classrooms. Every customer, every late-night shift added something to her. She watched people closely. That helped her build characters. It also made her tough. Later, when she moved to New York and started bartending at Kamikaze nightclub with Bruce Willis, she used the same skills to survive. She was always watching, always learning. That street-smart confidence helped her get noticed. In 1985, when she played Carla in Vision Quest, critics praised how calmly she spoke. Roger Ebert said she forced people to listen. That wasn't acting. That was real. She had lived it. Every late shift, every rude customer, every time she had to smile when she didn't want to, it all showed up on screen. By the time she starred in The Moderns in 1988, Variety called her ideal for the seductive roles she was landing with ease. Right after college in 1980, Linda moved to New York and signed up for classes at the International Center of Photography. She focused on black and white portraits, something she still works on today. Her attention to detail came from these early lessons. At the same time, she joined the circle in the Square Theater School to study acting. She was juggling both art forms at once. Her photography helped her understand faces, emotion, and silence. All of that ended up in her performances. Years later, she was directing documentaries about autism and juvenile diabetes, but even back then, she was learning how to tell human stories. During this time, she bartended and made contacts. Her photo work, her acting training, and her nightlife job all blended into one life. When she improvised a scene in The Last Seduction, climbing a fence and shocking the crew, it wasn't just talent, it was instinct built from everything she had lived. In the early 1970s, Linda started skipping school to attend underground film screenings in Philadelphia. She was still in high school, but her taste was already changing. She wasn't interested in Hollywood fluff. She wanted strange, raw stories. This caused constant fights at home. Her parents didn't understand. She had already been debating the Bible with nuns. Now she was sneaking off to watch avant-garde films. These teenage acts of rebellion helped shape her. In 1994's The Last Seduction, she played a character so dangerous and magnetic that critics said she was unlike anyone else. That drive came from those early days in dark movie theaters, far from the world her family wanted her to live in. She never stopped clashing with them, but she also never gave up on her vision. In 1980, Linda packed her bags and left for New York. She had just finished her political science degree, but didn't care about law school anymore. At 22, she enrolled in Circle in the Square, where she studied under acting legends like Theodore Mann and Paul Libin. Within a year, she was acting in small off-Broadway plays. In one 1981 performance of Chekhov's The Seagull, her version of Nina earned whispers across the theater scene. She got no pay, only tips from bartending, but she stayed in the game. She shared shifts at Kamikaze with Bruce Willis and sometimes earned only $50 a week. At one point, she auditioned for 47 roles in a single year. She got none of them. She nearly quit. One night she missed her curfew and ended up sleeping on a park bench. But she didn't give up. That hard New York life built her. Between 1981 and 1983, Linda auditioned for over 30 soap operas. Casting directors told her she was too intense. They said her stare was predatory and didn't work for TV. She didn't book a single job in 18 months. In 1982, she was called back for As the World Turns, only to be told she scared the camera. But she didn't change. She leaned into that intensity. And in 1985, she landed Vision Quest. Her stare became her weapon. Years later, in 1992, she was rejected from Basic Instinct for being too small-breasted. But she didn't care. By the mid-1990s, she was earning $1 million per film. In 1983, broke and nearly giving up, Linda took a modeling job in Milan. She posed for Versace and Armani. She did 12 spreads in Lay magazine and earned $5,000 per shoot. One shoot lasted 3 days in Rome, in 90-degree heat. She nearly passed out, but finished the job. The money paid her rent and acting classes. Even though she hated being objectified, she accepted $60,000 that year. She later said the jobs felt hollow, but they kept her dream alive. In 1984, she made a choice that shocked her family. She legally changed her name from Clorinda to Linda. Agents had told her the name was too ethnic and would hurt her chances in Hollywood. It cost her $200 to file the paperwork. Her mother said it felt like betrayal, but it worked. Back in February of 1985, the world caught its first real glimpse of Linda Fiorentino when she stepped into the role of Carla in Vision Quest. She wasn't just another pretty face beside Matthew Modine. She played a wandering artist who had the kind of quiet mystery that lingered. Critics like Roger Ebert couldn't look away, calling her both warm and distant in a way that made you wonder what she was really thinking. Behind the scenes, the chemistry between Fiorentino and Modine had to be reshot again and again until it reached a level the director found electric. Those extra days of filming added pressure on everyone, but it worked. The film pulled in almost $13 million and turned her into an instant cult favorite. Still, she later shrugged the whole thing off, calling it just another movie where people drank beer all the time. Only weeks later, in May of that same year, she was back on screen in Gotcha, playing Sasha, a secretive Czech spy pulling an American college student into a dangerous web. It wasn't just dialogue and glamour. She threw herself into chase scenes across Berlin, including a night shoot so intense it nearly ended in a crash. Rain poured, tires slipped, and a collision barely missed her. The crew had to halt everything for 2 hours. She refused to let a stunt double step in. Her physical control and screen presence made her feel sharper than the male lead. And while the movie earned over $10 million, she would later admit it wasn't her kind of story. She didn't like scripts that played it safe. By September, she had transformed again. In Scorsese's After Hours, she played Kiki, an artist with a dark twist, S&M and all. She slipped into the gritty New York night like she belonged there, even improvising one of the film's strangest and most hypnotic scenes in a club filled with secrets and shadows. The moment stretched for 4 whole minutes, and every word she spoke hadn't been written down. Even though she clashed with people on set, The performance burned with strange beauty. That odd, sleepless night in the city became a cult classic, bringing in more than 10 million at the box office, and it cemented her image as someone who didn't just play characters, she haunted them. By the end of 1985, people were convinced she was the next big thing. Variety said it out loud that July. She was bold, sexy, smart. Offers poured in, more than 20 scripts in one season. But something unsettling began to creep in. Hollywood saw her one way. With her dark hair and intense stare, they started pushing her toward roles that were always seductive, always dangerous. She turned down Top Gun because she didn't like its military message. She even rejected Basic Instinct. Empire magazine would call her one of the 100 sexiest stars in 1995, ranking her at number 66. But all she ever wanted was to be taken seriously. 3 years after that explosive debut, she slipped into a different world entirely. In 1988's The Moderns, she played Rachel, an American drifting through 1920s Paris, tangled in love, jealousy, and art. It was her world. She had studied photography at the International Center of Photography in New York just the year before. She even tried speaking French on set, though she didn't really know the language. That raw effort gave her scenes a kind of shaky beauty, especially one where her controlling husband shaved her underarms with a straight razor. Intimate and terrifying. The film didn't make its budget back, earning just $2 million against a $3.5 million cost. But her performance was soft and haunted. You could already see the femme fatale forming. Then came 1991, and with it, a small movie called Queen's Logic. Nobody really watched it. It barely earned over $600,000, but inside it was a gem. Fiorentino played Carla, a woman who had enough of men's immaturity and games. In one scene, she completely broke down. But she wasn't acting. She drew from her own childhood in South Philadelphia, where she grew up as one of 8 kids in a loud Italian-American home. Her emotion was so real it shocked her co-stars. She sounded like someone who'd been holding back tears for years. That performance stood out, even in a cast full of stars. A year later, she took on Chain of Desire, playing a nightclub singer in a sex-driven tale of interconnected lovers. She had to perform scenes that made people squirm. One in particular, where she has a raw encounter in a church basement with a man named Jesus, stirred controversy across the board. Some called it sacrilegious, others called it art. Fiorentino said it was neither. To her, it was just about being honest about human longing and fear. She wanted people to feel something. By the end of the film, her character learns that her ex-lover has AIDS. That twist hit hard in the early 90s, when fear of the disease was everywhere. The film barely made $4,000, but her role echoed through those who saw it. She also tried television in 1989 with The Neon Empire. It aired on CBS and was watched by 20 million people. She played Lucy, the sharp and manipulative wife of a mobster during the birth of Las Vegas. The storyline was gritty and based on real gangsters, and her performance hinted at what was coming next. It was filmed during a slump in her career when nothing else was landing, but it gave her a way to show off her edge. And that edge would soon explode into something unforgettable. In 1994, The Last Seduction came out, and Linda Fiorentino didn't just act, she dominated. As Bridget Gregory, she became something audiences hadn't seen before. A woman who was cold, cunning, and completely in control. She stole $700,000 from her husband after he hit her. She ran away, took on a fake name that was a hidden clue, Wendy Croy, a rearranged New York, and seduced an innocent man just to toy with him. She didn't play the victim. She played the game. The phone sex scene was especially shocking. In just 2 minutes, she went from a whisper to a demand, directing every beat of the conversation. It wasn't just sexy, it was terrifying. Critics loved it. She won the New York Film Critics Circle Award that year, but behind the camera, things weren't smooth at all. They were shooting in Buffalo, in the dead of winter in 1993. It was freezing, with temperatures dropping below -10. Blizzards shut down the set. They even had to bring in truckloads of fake snow when nature didn't deliver. Fiorentino rewrote many of her lines, pushing to make Bridget even bolder. She fought with the director over how far was too far. She even planned the sex scenes herself, including the one against a chain-link fence. Peter Berg, her co-star, later said he just hung on for dear life while she took over. But even with all that, she was blocked from Oscar consideration. The film aired on HBO at midnight before it ever hit theaters, violating the rules. Critics like Roger Ebert were furious. He said it was a crime against art. Fiorentino still won the Independent Spirit Award and several others, but the snub hurt. It felt personal. She later said that women who play dark, twisted roles are punished, while men are praised. At the London Film Critics event in 1995, she told the audience it felt good to be evil and get paid for it. People were shocked, but she was just being honest. After The Last Seduction, the tide turned. Studios got scared. They called her dangerous. They said family audiences wouldn't accept her anymore. One producer revealed that big-name actresses had rejected the role because they didn't want to be seen as unlikable. The company behind the movie dismissed it as a skin flick and dumped it to HBO. And just like that, she was boxed in. When Men in Black came out in 1997, she played a smart, sarcastic coroner who ends up joining the secret agency. It was one of her biggest hits, making almost $600 million around the world. But people didn't know she won the role in a poker game with the director. She actually walked away with the part and $1,200 in cash. Still, rumors started again. She was hard to work with. She didn't return for the sequels. She also did Jade in 1995, another erotic thriller. She played a psychologist caught up in murder and sexual games. One car scene was so explicit that censors cut out more than 2 minutes. The director called it butchered. The movie failed at the box office, and gossip about on-set affairs only made things worse. By 1996, she tried something different in Larger Than Life with Bill Murray. She worked alongside an 8,000-pound elephant. Murray later said in 2025 that he cried when they filmed their final bath scene. Still, the movie flopped. Audiences didn't know what to make of her anymore. Then, in 1999, Linda Fiorentino starred in Dogma, a film that should have cemented her legacy, but instead planted the first seed of controversy that would haunt her for years. A year later, director Kevin Smith unloaded his anger in the DVD commentary, accusing her of creating chaos on set and claiming she couldn't handle the fact that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were more famous. He even said she refused to promote the film after objecting to a poster that exaggerated her cleavage. Smith twisted the knife further in a 2000 TV Guide interview, saying she brought drama into a comedy. The damage was done. She was labeled difficult, a brand that would chase her for the rest of her career. But almost 2 decades later, something unexpected happened. After Smith suffered a heart attack in 2018, Fiorentino reached out with an email. That one message cracked open years of bitterness. Smith apologized. He admitted his remark, that Janeane Garofalo would have been a better choice, was cruel, and that he was just trying to be funny at someone else's expense. He praised Fiorentino's work, finally taking some blame for the rumors that nearly destroyed her image. But by then, the damage was already deep. Back in 1997, Men in Black made over $589 million, and Fiorentino's Agent L was clearly being positioned as Will Smith's new partner. But when the sequel came out in 2002, she was simply gone. No dramatic death, no heroic ending. Just a quick throwaway line saying she'd gone back to being a medical examiner. The whispers were deafening. Rumors claimed Tommy Lee Jones refused to return unless she was removed, supposedly due to friction between them during the first film. No one officially confirmed it, but those stories spread like wildfire. Hollywood had its scapegoat, and her absence from the franchise was just another blow that made her fade faster. In 2002, she starred in Liberty Stands Still, a thriller with Wesley Snipes, where she played a gun executive held hostage in a phone booth. It had a chilling setup and a timely message, but it bombed hard, earning less than $600,000 despite its $11 million budget. It went straight to video in most places. Critics loved her performance but tore into the script and direction. The film had no push, no momentum, and no real chance. It just vanished, much like she was starting to. Her talent was there. The roles weren't. Then she disappeared for 7 years. In 2009, she popped up for a small cameo in Once More with Feeling, a quiet comedy about karaoke dreams. It didn't make money, barely reached audiences, and never made headlines. But for those who noticed, it was clear this was her exit. From that moment on, Linda Fiorentino became a ghost in the industry. What really shattered her career wasn't just a few bad roles or personality clashes. It was the way Hollywood decided to brand her. Kevin Smith's words in 2000 stuck to her like glue. Stories from Men in Black followed, but deeper whispers told a darker story. Back in 1998, during the casting of Dogma, she reportedly refused Harvey Weinstein's advances. He didn't want her in the film at all. And after she landed the role anyway, some believe he quietly declared war. A tweet in 2024 reignited that theory, saying Weinstein orchestrated a smear campaign that destroyed her reputation. By 2009, she'd gone from starring in 15 films in the 90s to just 4 in the new century. The industry shut its doors. The biggest shock came in 2008, when Fiorentino's name surfaced in the Anthony Pellicano wiretapping scandal. She had been romantically involved with FBI agent Mark Rossini and used that relationship to get access to classified files about her ex, billionaire Stephen Bing. Rossini, a 17-year veteran, broke the law for her, accessing the FBI's systems over 40 times. He eventually pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 12 months of probation and a $5,000 fine in 2009. Fiorentino passed the files to Pellicano's defense team. She claimed it was all for a screenplay, but the truth sounded stranger than fiction. She wasn't charged, but the headlines painted her as a real-life version of her most seductive roles. It didn't help that she'd reportedly been corresponding with Pellicano since the early 2000s and may have helped dig dirt on ex-lovers. In court, Rossini confessed everything. He leaked files on Michael Ovitz and Burt Fields. Fiorentino gave them to Pellicano's legal team. It was all unraveling, and she stayed just far enough away from the fire to avoid charges. But her career couldn't be saved. Her personal life didn't offer much comfort either. In 1992, she married director John Byram, but the marriage collapsed after just 11 months. They'd met in 1988 while working on a film that never got finished. After the divorce, she swore she'd never marry again. Around that time, tabloids caught wind of 2 rumored relationships. One was with actor Jamie Sheridan, her Queen's Logic co-star. The other was with billionaire Ted Forstman, who reportedly flew her on private jets and showered her with expensive gifts. The press was relentless, and in 1997, she even sued for privacy violations twice. By the early 2000s, she was done with the spotlight. She officially left acting in 2009 after Once More with Feeling and shifted to photography, a passion she'd kept hidden for years. Her work focused on raw black-and-white portraits that felt haunting and real. In 2012, she had a solo exhibition in New York that stunned critics, with the New York Times praising her ability to capture emotion better than many who'd spent decades in the field. By 2015, she'd made $150,000 from photography alone. She wasn't chasing fame anymore. She was escaping it. Today, at 67, Linda Fiorentino lives far from the Hollywood machine. She's either in Westport, Connecticut, or tucked away in a remote New York cabin. She sold her home in 2014 and now lives off residuals, reportedly earning about $500,000 each year just from Men in Black. She has no social media, no interviews, no appearances. She even turned down a $200,000 Netflix documentary in 2023. Locals say she tends to tomatoes and takes wildlife photos. One neighbor called her ghostly polite. She still writes handwritten letters, refusing to use email. Her silence has only deepened her legend. She didn't even show up for the 2017 Men in Black anniversary reunion, a gathering that could have been a moment of redemption. She declined after being dropped from Men in Black 2, reportedly at the insistence of Tommy Lee Jones. The franchise never mentioned her again. That one decision likely cost her $2 million. She also skipped the 2024 Jade Cast reunion and even refused to attend the Oscars back in 2000, despite her award-winning performance in The Last Seduction. Her refusal wasn't about bitterness. It was about principle. She turned down at least 15 roles after 2002, including a biopic where she demanded script changes to avoid exploitative scenes. She wasn't interested in playing the game, and yet her fans never stopped watching. On her 67th birthday, in March 2025, over 5,000 Instagram posts celebrated her. Some called her the ultimate femme fatale. A clip from The Last Seduction set to Lana Del Rey's Born to Die went viral. One post simply read, "67 and still seducing from the shadows." There was even a petition with thousands of signatures begging her to return to acting. Anonymous fans claimed they saw her in New York that day. One swore she smiled at them,